The sky was no longer blue. It burned red with fire. Alien warships circled above Earth, their black holes blocking out the stars. They were countless, stretching across the heavens like a wall of death. Every human who looked up knew what it meant. The end was here. In the command centers of Earth, silence ruled. No more cheering, no more brave speeches. Generals and leaders stared at screens filled with enemy ships. Humanity had fought for years, pushing back, holding the line, refusing to bow. But now, there were no more ships left to send. No weapons that could break the alien fleet. The war was lost. People whispered the truth to each other, though no one wanted to believe it. We only have hours left. The aliens were preparing their final strike. When it came, Earth would burn. Yet, in those final hours, whispers spread of something else. Something older than war, older than the alien invaders, older even than humanity's first step into the stars. A secret so dangerous that it had been buried for centuries. They said there was a species hidden away, sealed far from the reach of man and God. A species even gods feared. At first, most dismissed the rumor. Just a story, nothing more. But then the whispers reached the ears of Earth's leaders. And when they searched old records, when they unlocked files no one was ever meant to read, they found the truth. Beneath the frozen wastelands of Antarctica lay a facility, older than any nation, older than the war itself. It held the key to summoning them. Inside the United Earth Council chamber, the air was thick with fear. Generals, scientists, and politicians sat in silence, broken only by the hum of the war screens showing the alien fleet above. One general broke the silence. "We have one option left. The summons." Gasps filled the chamber. Heads turned sharply. The word itself felt like a curse. Another leader stood, shaking his head. "You can't mean that. You know what happens if we call them. They won't just destroy the invaders. They'll destroy everything." The general's voice was heavy. "We are already finished. You see the fleet. We have no ships left. No weapons left. If we do nothing, in a few hours Earth will be ashes. This way, maybe we survive." A scientist spoke, her voice trembling. "Survival? Do you call it survival to unleash them? Do you know why they were sealed away? Do you know what they are? They do not fight wars. They do not protect allies. They consume." The council chamber fell into chaos. Some shouted to accept death with dignity. Others demanded the summoning. Fear twisted every face. Outside, civilians crowded streets, staring at the burning sky. Children cried as parents tried to hide their terror. Families held each other, waiting for the end. Radios repeated the same message: remain calm, shelter in place. But everyone knew the truth. Calm meant nothing when the sky itself was falling. In one corner of the chamber, a quiet voice rose above the shouting. An old admiral, scarred from too many battles, stood and spoke. "I have fought the enemy. I have seen our soldiers bleed and die. And now we are asked to choose between death today or something worse tomorrow. But let me ask you, what is worse than extinction?" The room fell silent. His words hung in the air like a knife. Across the table, a councilwoman whispered, "If we summon them, they may not stop with the aliens. They may turn on us." The admiral looked at her with hollow eyes. "They may. But at least there will still be in us to destroy. If we do nothing, there will be nothing left at all." The silence stretched long. Everyone could hear the faint rumble of the alien fleet's weapons charging above Earth. Every second brought the end closer. Finally, the highest-ranking commander, a woman with steel in her eyes, rose from her seat. She looked at each leader, each soldier, each scientist in turn. "We do not have the luxury of safety anymore. The enemy is here. We will summon them." "No," shouted a scientist. "You don't understand what you're calling. You don't understand what will answer." The commander's voice was like ice. "We don't need to understand. We only need to survive." Far away, under Antarctica's ice, soldiers moved through tunnels carved deep into the earth. The secret base was alive with alarms, lights flashing red against steel walls. At its heart stood a chamber covered in ancient symbols. Machines hummed with power not of this world. The soldiers stood before the massive door. None spoke. None dared. Every one of them knew the legends. The species inside was not meant to be touched, not meant to be awakened. A colonel raised his hand. His face was pale, his lips tight. He spoke the words into his communicator, words that would change the fate of Earth forever. By order of the United Earth Council, activate the summoning. The massive steel doors began to shift, ancient locks groaning as if the Earth itself protested. Ice cracked and fell. The chamber's lights flickered. And in the silence that followed, something deep beneath the ice answered. The world held its breath. The storm above Antarctica raged with unnatural force. Lightning split the sky again and again, striking the frozen ground. Soldiers marched through the blizzard, their black vehicles cutting paths across endless ice. Beneath them, far below the surface, an ancient power stirred. Inside the hidden base, alarms blared. The chamber was massive, carved into stone and ice, reinforced with metal older than any modern design. Strange markings glowed faintly on the walls, symbols no one fully understood. The air inside was heavy, humming as if alive. The soldiers gathered in rows, staring at the colossal machine at the center. It looked wrong, too smooth, too alien, too ancient. It was not built by human hands. Its core pulsed like a heart, dark light rippling across its surface. The commander of the base, Colonel Reyes, stepped forward. His face was pale, but his voice carried weight. Men, women, this is no longer a choice. The council has spoken. Earth has spoken. We summon them tonight. A ripple of unease spread through the soldiers. No one dared speak against the order, but fear showed in their eyes. Dr. Alara Voss, the chief scientist, hurried forward, her hands trembling as she clutched her data pad. Colonel, please listen to me. This machine was buried for a reason. The records are clear. It doesn't summon allies. It opens a door. A door we may not be able to close again. Reyes looked at her with cold determination. Doctor, we have no time for fear. You've seen the fleet above. If we do nothing, Earth will be ash before the sun rises. Better a chance at life than certain death. Alara's voice cracked. You don't understand. They don't fight for us. They don't fight with us. They fight only for themselves. And when they're done, they'll turn on us. The colonel leaned close. His voice was low. Maybe, but at least we'll still be here for them to turn on. The soldiers turned away, pretending not to hear. No one wanted to think about what would come after. All that mattered was survival. Today, tonight, this hour. The chamber shook suddenly. A deep rumble rolled through the ice. Dust and frost fell from the ceiling. Somewhere, deep below, something answered the machine's hum. Begin the sequence, Reyes ordered. Technicians moved quickly, their fingers flying over ancient consoles. Blue light flooded the chamber, spreading across the floor in perfect geometric lines. Symbols lit up, one after another, as if the machine remembered a language lost to time. The soldiers braced themselves. Some whispered prayers. Others stood silent, staring at the glowing walls. Above them, the alien fleet shifted formation. Their sensors picked up the sudden energy surge beneath the ice. Warnings flashed across enemy command screens. On the flagship, Admiral Zaith of the Kether Dominion leaned forward. His voice was calm, but his eyes narrowed. What are the humans doing? A technician replied, trembling. Unknown energy source detected beneath polar continent. Power levels impossible, Admiral. Beyond known scale. The Admiral's tendrils stiffened. His species knew fear only from legend, yet for the first time in centuries, he felt it in his chest. Target that base. Destroy it before it awakens. Alien warships adjusted their cannons, aiming at Antarctica. But before they could fire, the ground itself screamed. The summoning chamber roared with light. Energy shot upward like a pillar, piercing the clouds, reaching space itself. The beam tore through alien formations, shredding ships that crossed its path. In the chamber, the machine pulsed faster, symbols flashing too quickly for human eyes. The floor cracked as the temperature dropped. Frost climbed the walls, coating steel and stone alike. Soldiers shivered violently. Their breath turned to mist. Some dropped to their knees as whispers filled the room. Not words, but voices, thousands of them, speaking in tones no human language could form. Alara clutched her head, tears streaming from her eyes. They're awake. Oh God, they're awake. The colonel forced himself to stand firm, though sweat dripped from his brow despite the cold. Stay strong. This is what we wanted. The machine's heart exploded in blinding light. For a second, everything was silent. The wind outside stopped. The ground stopped trembling. Even the alien fleet froze, unsure what had just been unleashed. Then the shadows came. It was not one shape, nor many. It was shifting, twisting, something larger than sight could hold. Soldiers screamed as their eyes tried to follow it, as if reality itself bent around the figure rising from the void. Above Earth, alien fleets panicked. Their scanners failed. Their weapons jammed. A colossal shadow had formed in the orbit, blocking half the stars. It was not a ship. It was not a creature. It was something in between, something older than both. On the alien flagship, Admiral Zaith whispered words his species had not spoken in 1,000 years.
No, not them.
Anyone but them. The entity turned its gaze toward Earth. Every human, every alien, every living being felt it inside their minds, a presence vast and merciless. And then, without sound, it asked a question. Not in words, but in pure thought. Who dares summon us again? The chamber lights exploded. Soldiers fell to the ground. The beam reaching into space twisted into black fire. Colonel Reyes, barely able to breathe under the crushing weight of the voice, whispered the only answer he could. Humanity. The entity shifted, its shadows stretching across the planet. And Earth itself trembled. The shadow above Earth stretched across the heavens like a living night. The alien fleet, once so confident, now scattered like insects under a great fire. Their warships tried to pull away, engines burning at full power, but it was useless. Space itself bent around the thing that had answered humanity's call. From the ground, people lifted their eyes and forgot to breathe. Cities fell silent. Crowds gathered in the streets, staring upward at the dark shape covering the stars. Children clung to their parents, too young to understand, but old enough to feel fear. No words could describe it. It was not a ship, though it dwarfed any fleet. It was not a beast, though it moved with the weight of a predator. Its body shifted constantly, sometimes solid, sometimes smoke, sometimes a storm of light. It had no clear form, and yet every eye knew it was alive. In orbit, alien commanders struggled to remain calm. The Kether Dominion had never feared humans. But this was not human. This was something else. On the flagship, Admiral Zaith shouted orders. Form a line. Prepare heavy fire. Thousands of alien cannons lit up. Beams of energy lanced across the void, striking the shadow. Explosions blossomed, brighter than suns. But when the fire cleared, the thing remained untouched. It did not even flinch. Instead, it watched. Every soldier, every commander, every living being felt its gaze crawl through their minds. It was not looking at ships. It was looking at souls. On Earth, the United Council watched through trembling feeds. Leaders gripped the edges of their desks as static tore across the screens. One councilman whispered, "We've made a mistake." Dr. Alara Voss, still in the Antarctic chamber, pressed her shaking hands against the console. Her voice was raw, broken. This isn't a weapon.
This isn't an ally.
It's hunger. It's hunger given shape. Colonel Reyes stood beside her, his knuckles white on his rifle. His voice was steady, though his eyes betrayed fear. Doesn't matter what it is. It's the only thing standing between us and extinction. The machine pulsed again, symbols blazing like fire. The ground shook as the entity bent lower, as if studying the planet. Alien fleets panicked. Some ships tried to attack again, firing everything they had. Others turned and fled, abandoning their positions. Discipline shattered. The Kether admiral slammed his claws on the console. Cowards! Hold your ground. It's only an illusion. It cannot be real. But even as he spoke, one of his warships was torn apart. Without a beam, without a weapon. The shadows simply reached out, and the ship cracked open like glass. Hundreds of alien lives vanished in silence. Admiral Zatha's voice faltered. He had seen death, war, fire, but never this. Gods help us. Back on Earth, silence spread through the command chambers. People watched, unable to look away. Humanity's enemies were being broken, not by human hands, but by the thing humanity had dared to summon. And then, for the first time, it spoke. Not in sound, not in language, in thought. Every human, every alien, every creature that could feel, heard it. Who dare summon us again? The words were not a question. They were judgment. Minds bent under the weight of them. Some soldiers dropped their weapons, clutching their heads. Some fell to the ground screaming. In the chamber, Dr. Voss's eyes widened. Again, it remembers. We weren't the first. Colonel Reyes stepped forward, though his legs felt like lead. He forced the words from his mouth. Humanity. We summoned you. The entity's form shifted. Darkness became fire, fire became storm. Across the world, lightning split the skies, oceans churned, and mountains cracked. Humanity. The voice echoed in every mind. We recall you. Long ago you called us. Long ago you fed us. And long ago you betrayed us. A wave of terror rippled through humanity. Betrayed? What betrayal? No record spoke of this. No one knew what it meant. The entity moved. Slowly, impossibly, it turned its gaze from Earth to the alien fleet. Ships fired desperately, but their beams bent away, swallowed by the void. The shadow reached out again, and 3 warships crumbled like sand. But then it stopped. The entity's attention shifted back to Earth, to the chamber, to the humans. You ask us to fight for you again. Tell us, why should we not devour you instead? The chamber lights flickered. Screens went black. Across the world, people fell to their knees, clutching their ears, their hearts. Colonel Reyes stood frozen. The weight of 1 billion lives pressed against his shoulders. What answer could save them now? And in the silence, Elara Voss whispered, barely able to breathe. We've unleashed something worse than the aliens. The shadow grew darker. Its form stretched wider across the sky. And then, with a voice like a storm tearing across eternity, it spoke again. Give us one reason not to end you. The world trembled. The world had gone silent. Every city, every colony, every outpost of humanity felt the same crushing voice in their minds. It was not a sound. It was not language. It was something deeper, heavier, like the weight of a black ocean pressing on every soul at once. Give us one reason not to end you. The words rolled through every mind. Children cried, soldiers collapsed, leaders froze. No one could escape it. The shadow in the sky was not just watching, it was inside them. In the Antarctic chamber, lights flickered. The consoles sparked as the summoning machine struggled to contain the energy it had unleashed. Dr. Elara Voss clutched the railing, her knuckles white. Her voice trembled. It's testing us. It doesn't want obedience. It wants something else. Colonel Reyes stood in the center, sweat dripping down his face. His mouth felt dry, but he forced words out. You said we summoned you before. You said we betrayed you. We don't even know what you are or what you want. The voice shook the chamber walls. What we want has never changed. We want what was promised. We want what was denied. We want what is ours. The soldiers shifted nervously. Some muttered prayers. Others gripped their weapons, though every one of them knew guns meant nothing against this. Above Earth, the alien fleet hung frozen. They had stopped firing. Even the Kether, conquerors of 100 worlds, watched in silence. For the first time in their long history, they saw an enemy that terrified them. On the flagship, Admiral Zath whispered to himself, The humans they were desperate enough to call them. Fools. Mad fools. His officers looked to him for orders, but he gave none. What command could he give against something even the gods had feared? Back on Earth, the United Council argued inside their bunker. Some leaders demanded they shut down the summoning immediately. Others screamed that it was too late, that stopping the ritual would only provoke the being further. The council chamber shook as the entity's voice thundered again. Choose, humans. Either we feed on you, or you give us what is ours. One way or another, we will take it. Dr. Voss's face went pale. She turned to Reyes, her voice barely above a whisper. I think I know what it wants. Reyes grabbed her arm. Tell me. She swallowed hard. The records, the fragments I studied before the council sealed them. There were notes, warnings. They said these beings don't trade in land, or gold, or lives. They don't eat flesh. They don't drink blood. They consume something else. Reyes frowned. What? Her eyes met his, filled with terror. Time. The colonel's stomach dropped. You're saying they feed on time itself, on futures. That's what was denied them. That's why they called it betrayal. Someone long ago refused to give them the time they demanded. The soldiers around them exchanged uneasy looks. None of them understood, but all of them felt the truth of it. The entity shifted above, its shadow stretching wider, blotting out the stars. You have moments left. Decide. Colonel Reyes turned to the communicator, his voice sharp. Council, you heard it. What's the decision? The chamber filled with shouting. Some leaders demanded to accept the price. Others insisted humanity should rather die than give up its future. The argument grew louder, more desperate, until finally the highest-ranking commander, the same woman who had given the order to summon, spoke over them all. Her voice was cold, heavy. If they want time, then give it. Better to live now, even for a day, than to die tonight. Dr. Voss slammed her hand on the table. You don't understand. If we give them what they want, our future ends. Our children, our grandchildren, humanity will have no tomorrow. We will win today, but we'll vanish in the years to come. The commander's eyes were steel. If we don't, there is no tomorrow. There isn't even a today. Silence fell. In orbit, alien ships began to move again, slowly, trying to retreat. But the entities stretched a hand of shadow, and 3 vessels froze mid-flight. They shattered without a sound, fragments drifting into the void. Every species watching knew the truth. Humanity had unleashed something that could not be controlled. Colonel Reyes felt the weight of 1 billion lives pressing against his shoulders. He looked at Dr. Voss, who shook her head furiously, tears streaming down her face. He looked at his soldiers, pale and silent, waiting for him to speak. The entity's voice boomed once more. Decide. What will you give? Your flesh, your blood, or your future? Reyes opened his mouth, but before he could speak, the council's commander gave the order. Make the bargain. The chamber shook as the machine flared with light. The entity's shadow bent closer, its gaze heavy enough to crush stone. Then hear us mortals. To fight for you, to spare your world, we demand the price of survival. The voice grew colder, darker. Your time will be ours. The ground split. The air screamed, and Earth held its breath. The world held its breath as the shadow pressed closer. Cities trembled. Oceans surged against their shores. Above the burning sky, the alien fleet hung helpless, their mighty weapons silent. Every species watching, human and alien alike, knew this was no battle. This was judgment. The voice returned, colder than the void itself. Your time will be ours. The words sank into every soul. People across Earth clutched their children, their loved ones. They didn't fully understand the meaning, but they felt it. Something precious was being demanded. In the Antarctic chamber, Colonel Reyes stood frozen. His soldiers stared at him with hollow eyes. They wanted answers. They wanted hope. But what answer could he give? Dr. Alara Voss stepped forward, her face pale and wet with tears. This is worse than I feared. Don't you see? They won't take our lives today. They'll take our future. We'll survive this night, but what comes after will vanish. Our years, our children's years gone. Reyes clenched his fists. And if we refuse? The entity's laughter rolled across the sky like thunder. Refuse, and you die now. Accept, and you live for a while. The chamber shook violently. Frost spread across the consoles. The machine pulsed like a beating heart. Above Earth, alien ships tried to flee, their engines blazing. But the shadows stretched out, and ships fell apart like paper in a storm. Thousands of lives snuffed out in silence. Humanity's enemies were dying. But at what price? In the United Council's bunker, chaos erupted. Leaders shouted over each other. Agree to it. What choice do we have?
No.
If we give up our future, humanity is finished anyway. We can't think about children who may never exist. We have to save the people who live now. You're damning us to slavery, to extinction, just slower. Finally, the commander who had given the first order slammed her fist on the table. Her voice cut through the noise. We make the bargain. If we die tonight, all is lost. If we pay the price, at least there is hope, some kind of hope. Dr. Voss shouted back, desperate. Hope? You call that hope? You're giving away tomorrow for a single breath today. Her words echoed, but no one answered. The decision had already been made. Colonel Reyes turned to the soldiers in the chamber. Their faces were pale, their hands trembling. Some whispered prayers. Others stared at the glowing machine with hatred. But none of them moved to resist. Reyes raised his communicator. His voice was hoarse, broken. Entity, humanity accepts your price. The world shuddered. The shadow above Earth twisted, shifting into a storm of black fire. Every person felt the weight of the bargain crash down upon them. The voice spoke again, almost pleased. So be it. We will spare your world this day. We will fight for you, and when it is done, we will feed. You will have no tomorrow. The bargain was sealed. Instantly, the skies above erupted. The entity moved with speed beyond thought. Alien warships shattered one after another, their mighty fleets breaking like toys. Cannons fired uselessly, beams of light swallowed by the shadow. Thousands of ships tried to retreat, but none escaped. On the ground, humans cheered. For the first time in years, they saw their enemies die faster than they could strike. The invincible Kether Dominion was burning, but the cheers died quickly. In cities, strange things began to happen.
Clocks spun wildly.
Children aged a year in an instant. Old men froze, their lives cut short without warning. Time itself twisted. A farmer in Kansas dropped his tools and gasped as his beard grew long in seconds. A young woman in Tokyo screamed as her newborn baby turned into a boy of 5 before her eyes. In Paris, a soldier collapsed as decades caught him in an instant. Dr. Voss saw it on her monitor. Her voice cracked with horror. It's begun. The feeding has begun. Reyes clenched his jaw, forcing himself to watch. Better this than total extinction. But even as he said it, doubt gnawed at his heart. The entity's storm spread wider. Alien ships fell in burning trails across the sky. Humanity's cities shook under the weight of the battle, but they remained standing. In orbit, Admiral Zaith watched his empire collapse. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Dominion, was gone. He stared at the shadow and whispered, "The humans have doomed us all." Back on Earth, the United Council tried to calm the population. Broadcasts told people that victory was at hand, that the aliens were being destroyed. But no one could ignore the truth. Time was slipping away. Children grew older overnight. Crops withered in fields that had just been planted. Machines broke down from years of decay they had never lived through. Humanity was surviving, but at the cost of tomorrow. In the Antarctic chamber, Dr. Voss turned to Reyes with tears streaming down her face. You think this is survival? Look at them. We may have saved the body, but the soul of humanity is already dying. Reyes said nothing. His eyes were locked on the machine, on the pulsing light, on the shadow above. He knew she was right. But he also knew there was no turning back. The voice of the entity rolled over them once more. We keep our word. You live.
they die.
But when this battle ends, your time is ours. The chamber shook as another alien fleet was ripped apart. Fire rained from the heavens, and humanity stood between two horrors: victory tonight, or the end of tomorrow. The skies of Earth were fire. Black storms and burning ships lit the night brighter than day. Every human eye turned upward, watching the impossible war rage above them. The shadow fought like no weapon ever built. Alien fleets crumbled. Their massive dreadnoughts split in half, spilling molten cores into the void. The proud Dominion, undefeated for centuries, was being erased in hours. And yet, Earth itself trembled. Across the planet, time unraveled. In villages, entire families withered to dust. In great cities, towers cracked and fell as decades passed in minutes. Oceans boiled and cooled. Forests died and grew again in the span of a single night. Humanity was alive but breaking. Inside the Antarctic chamber, Colonel Reyes gripped the console with white knuckles. His soldiers were gone, lost to the feeding. Only Dr. Alara Voss remained with him, her face hollow, her eyes red from weeping. "This isn't survival," she whispered. "It's a slower death. A crueler one." Reyes didn't answer. His gaze was fixed on the storm above, the storm humanity had summoned. He knew she was right, but he also knew there was no undoing the choice. The voice of the entity filled every mind once more, soft but cold. "The war is finished. Your enemies are no more. You live because you paid." The last alien flagship exploded in orbit, scattering fire across the sky. Silence followed. For the first time in generations, the Kether Dominion was defeated. Humanity had won. On Earth, people cheered through their tears. In broken cities, survivors raised their fists. Across colonies, voices rose in disbelief and joy. They had survived the unthinkable. But the cheering did not last long. The entity's shadow lingered. Its vast presence loomed above the planet, blotting out the stars. And then its voice returned, sharp as a blade. "Our bargain is fulfilled. Now, your time belongs to us." The ground split open. Rivers dried in seconds. Entire seasons flashed past in minutes. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, repeating like a cruel cycle. People aged before each other's eyes. Children screamed as they became adults in moments. Adults turned frail. The old fell to dust. Dr. Voss clutched her head, shaking with fury. "You can't do this. You promised we'd live." The voice replied with cold amusement. "And you do live. But life is nothing without time. That is what you gave us. That is what we take." Reyes slammed his fist against the console. "Then fight us. If you want us gone, face us in battle. Don't steal from shadows." For the first time, the voice almost sounded curious. "Fight us? You summoned us. You invited us. And now you think you can command us? Interesting." The storm twisted. The shadow pulled back slightly, as if considering. Across Earth, time's rush slowed, just for a breath. People gasped as the aging stopped, if only for a moment. Dr. Voss's eyes widened. "Colonel, it's listening to you." Reyes didn't believe it. His throat was raw, his heart breaking. But he raised his voice again, shouting into the storm. "Humanity will not be slaves to time. We chose survival, yes, but we will not kneel forever. You wanted us to pay? We will fight to keep our tomorrow." The chamber shuddered. The machine that had summoned the entity cracked, its runes glowing brighter. The storm above Earth boiled in fury. The voice roared. "Then we will see. You have chosen defiance. We spared you once. Now your future will be war against us. A war against the keepers of eternity." Every human felt the words sink deep into their bones. They had not escaped. They had only traded one war for another, a war not against flesh and metal, but against time itself. The entity began to withdraw, pulling its shadow back into the void. The stars slowly returned. The fires in orbit dimmed. The last alien wreckage drifted lifeless through space. Humanity had survived the Dominion. But as the shadow vanished, its final whisper echoed across the Earth. Your tomorrow is ours. But if you dare, come and take it back. Silence followed. Colonel Reyes collapsed to his knees, his body heavy with exhaustion. Dr. Voss stood beside him, trembling, her eyes staring upward at the empty sky. Do you understand what this means? She whispered. The aliens are gone. But now we must fight time itself. Reyes closed his eyes. He didn't answer, because deep inside he knew the truth. Humanity had won the war. But in doing so, they had awakened something far worse. And the real battle was only beginning.